Good morning, good afternoon, and actually, I should have mentioned I've part of that time with the Park Service was with National Historic Trails, and our office was based out of Salt Lake City. So I think I was probably within a couple of hours drive from Idaho State. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all some. Like Keith mentioned, I'm gonna do some light background on vector tile layers. We'll talk about some custom base maps, and then really two demos. One specifically about the style editor and what we can do there, and then how do we create these custom base maps for our organizations, right? So thank you for having me. Our agenda, quick background. We'll talk about the base maps. I'll demo those. We'll talk about custom base map gallery. I'll demo those. I'll throw in some tips there at the end. Along the way, I'm going to be sharing links. I am a very much, it's nice to see someone else do it, but I would like the documentation so I can do it myself one day. And so I will be including those links throughout. I'll allow you all to go through those. I'm not going to spend too much time reviewing all those, but I'll give you a good starting point. And then we'll open up for any questions that folks might have. So let's get cruising here. Brief background. We started forever when we talk about base map, we've had the raster tile base maps. And actually for your organizations, anybody in ArcGIS Online or even your enterprise portals, if you work in that environment, all of the base maps were raster tiles. They were pre-rendered image tiles. I think this crowd gets that, but really how I would describe that to somebody, my wife, anybody else that isn't GIS is, I'm at cloud level, I take a picture with a camera. I go down, 1,000 feet, I take another picture, 1,000 feet, another picture, and you do that so on and so on. And then you've just got pre-made images, right? Pre-configured images that as you zoom in or out, it just goes to that next closest image. These raster tile base maps are obviously still used for the handful of imagery base maps. There's really the two that people think about, the imagery and then the imagery with location information on it, right? Those raster tile base maps are not customizable. They're low resolution and they're not dynamic. They are just blink, took a picture, took a picture, took a picture. Vector tile base maps were introduced in 2015. Late 2015 is when beta started on the vector tile base maps. They support high resolution displays and are dynamic to the device that you open it on. So if you're on a computer or if you're on an iPad or if you're on a mobile device, a phone, it's going to adjust accordingly to that device. They're fast to build and easy to update. They have dynamic label placement and rotation, something that raster tiles doesn't have. I've highlighted here the optional end user customization for things like content, color, and fonts. That's really what we're going to dive into when we get into the style editor, and you're going to get a chance to see that. It does utilize JavaScript and style files. Like I said, I promised I would share some of these things along the way. A great resource to start at are the vector base map blogs. So I'm just gonna copy, I'll throw that into chat for everyone. There you go. But to see the latest and greatest about what our authors are putting out there, about what's new, what's changed, that's a good starting location. All right, creating and editing our vector tile base maps. So you absolutely can create your own using ArcGIS Pro. Anybody in chat, just to get a vibe, has anybody created their own vector tile base map and then published that and used it in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise Portal? Feel free to throw it in the chat, let me know, or give me a thumbs up. Looks like Pam maybe is saying that she's done it. So you can do this in Pro. It relies on you using points, lines, and polygons. So any base maps that might be in there, you're going to have to kick those out. Any kind of crazier or more complex data sets aren't supported by those vector tile base map. When publishing, it requires some minimal metadata, right? Everyone in this group does tons of metadata, fully documents everything they do. Not really, none of us do. But it is required that you do at least some when publishing this. We're talking like some item details type stuff. The beautiful thing, and kind of the sneaky thing that sometimes goes unnoticed with creating your own custom vector tile base maps is the fact that you can use your own projected coordinate systems. For anybody in here that does normal web mapping, almost all of us do the Web Mercator auxiliary sphere. That is the default projection. And we know projection, we have size, shape, distance, direction, things that get skewed. So for our local areas, we might be interested in using a projected coordinate system. Now there's some tips and tricks into getting that to work properly. But once you get your projected coordinate system published, then you can start to mishmash, right? All the other layers from everywhere else that you might have, and they'll align to your projected coordinate system on the fly. So it's pretty slick. Something you can't do with just the default ones. They are highly customizable. So when you're building these in Pro, you're using your visible scale ranges, right? To let us know that when we zoom out, we should only see certain things. And as we zoom in, maybe we allow that user to see more and more. We can do that with our symbology and with our labels, right? Our text stuff. We talk about generalizing features for faster performance. Vector tiles is all about being faster. Everything we do these days is about being faster. And sometimes generalization is the way we do that, right? If we have linear features with many, many vertices, maybe we generalize that, simplify that line. So it works better and faster and is more performant. We can use things like our definition queries to limit what the user sees, use display filters in that same way, scale-based symbology so that as we zoom in, maybe we want our point features to get smaller or bigger, or lines get thicker or narrower, all of those types of things. I see your chat, Danielle. If anybody else notices it, please let me know. The other, it is cutting out. Okay. Let me restart my headset real fast so I don't want to waste the time. So do it real fast. How about now? Are we clear there in chat?
Yeah, sounds better now. I don't know what was happening right there. Let's keep on
Okay.
going.
All right, cool. Thanks. Hey, y'all, let me know. I appreciate it. Another thing about creating your own vector tile base maps, a real huge plus is probably all of you know this, but if you open up a raster or a vector base map, one of the default Esri base maps right now, they're not clickable, right? You can't click on it and get a pop-up, an interactive pop-up that maybe reveals some more information, some more detailed information. When you create your custom vector tile base maps, you can include pop-ups in that. Again, it's not easy. There's some very nuanced things about which fields you show. More than happy to have those conversations with people offline or through email. But that ability is a huge plus in a lot of people's books. The main tools we use when creating these is creating the vector tile layer index, creating our vector tile package, and then sharing that, right? We don't do all this cool work so that we don't share. We want to share it, let our colleagues and friends use that. Here's another link. If you're interested, we have a self-paced web course that'll take you through creating vector tiles in ArcGIS Pro. You can go through all of these things, check them out, kind of kick the tires. So there's that in the chat for everybody. All right, so vector tile base maps, specifically the ability to, now that we've created it, right? Either we're going to use Esri's default or we're going to create our own, publish those up. We can edit those existing vector tile base maps. We do that through a couple different ways. The easiest, the nicest flavor is the ArcGIS Vector Tile Style Editor. This one has flown under many people's radar. Mine, Mark's, Keith's, everyone's, right? I think the first time any of us see this, we go, wait a second, this is a game changer. I can actually change these. The beautiful thing is you can change Esri's, right? We're not making you have to publish this. So you don't have to go through that web course. You don't have to publish these if that's not what you're interested in. You can simply take Esri's base maps and reuse them, right? Save them as a different layer, make tons of changes. You're going to see that here in a quick demo. But you can obviously do your previously published tile packages and layers. Just to throw it out there, under the hood, the only way way you used to be able to do this is you had to know your JSON and be comfortable in a coding space. Let me know in chat if you're one of those people. I'm a Python nerd, so I can make some of these other languages make a little bit of sense. And if you're interested in going that route, and you're just craving to make life maybe a little bit harder than it needs to be, I will give you the documentation for all of the things you might want to call on if you want to play in that space. Mark says, yeah, not very many people want to deal with that JSON. So what Esri did is we created this vector tile style editor. It's interactive, it's dynamic, we see everything in real time. That's what I want to show you today. So here's a chance for us to highlight that. So you can get to, I'll share this link. You can get to the style editor directly from that link. You log in. This is the landing page for everybody, right? Once you're logged in, you're going to say get started. Popular, you're going to see immediately all of the vector-based maps. The popular, the creative, we start to do some of the colored pencil if that's what you're into. Remember, everything is audience and purpose. So depending on your audience and purpose, any of these can apply. So these are all Esri-based maps that you can select that style and begin to manipulate. If you have your own styles that you've already published and exist in your organizational accounts, you can start there too. You can start with those published ones that you've already put up. Here are some examples of just different things I played with from that create course that I've already shared with you. You do this process of creating vector tile layers for a geologic base map in Southern California. So you can start there. Popular, anybody got any preference? What's everyone's favorite map here? Anybody, first person to say something wins. Topo, I love the topo. All right, we'll go topo, Thomas. So we'll start with the world topographic map. It's this easy, right? We select style, you're immediately in the editor. And it's going to edit at real time. We have our map view so we can immediately see the effects of what we're doing. Starting at the landing page here, you got your basics. What is the land, right? The color is going to look like. You don't need to know hexadecimal or any of that. You can color pick and it'll do it for you, right? It's very, very simple. Your water, your roads, your boundaries. You can make your text larger. See, and you can see at different scales. If you look at the bottom, we've got 3 different scales and then your main. So very easy, it's all click and see kind of stuff. What we're probably more interested in is our specific layers. In particular, we have our locator, right? In particular, I know that when I talked to Mark about how this came about, he said something about y'all noticed differences in the trees. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but something about the trees started to look different and we weren't used to it. And it sounds like either you wanted to go back to it, change it, anything in between. So what I've done is I've zoomed in here to Idaho State and we see some of these trees. The beauty here is if we look at this, there is a lot of information in these maps, right? So just for natural, we've got land and vegetation we have all of these and it continues on for everywhere else. The beauty of the map is if you pay attention right here in the bottom left, as you hover over something, it's going to let you know which layer that is. So if I hover over here, I can see, oh, this is the layer tree elm. A lot of elms. We can see the education services. Looks like we got special area points of interest. So that's going to be huge. Pay attention. That's something that people don't see. And you're going to spend a lot of time clicking through a crazy amount of layers to find that thing when you can just hover over it and update it, right? So we look at it and we say, all right, what can we do to these things? If I go to my tree, because I know I'm looking at tree elm here, we're going to get our pane that allows us to change whatever we might want to change about that thing. Visible, not visible, very straightforward. There we go. So these might be some pines. Whether we want those on or not in our map, we can specify the visible zoom range, right? When do we want these trees to show up as we move down from cloud level? So the further we do that, we can do that in real time, right? As we get out, looks like trees disappear right about there. So if we bring it in one more drag, oh, here we go. Let's do it on this side. Oh, it's not letting me go lower. Oh, we might have this one locked. Anyways, that's how you control when these trees show up in your map. Next, icon appearance. If you want to change the symbology, right? What does that tree actually look like? We have some pre-configured ones here. All the maple, maybe we've gone out and done some ground truthing and we found out, hey, the tree is actually a maple. If we want to use some more simplistic symbology, we can. I know someone's already saying, well, what if I have my own thing I want to add, right? I've got a new icon I want to add. Never fear, Derek's here. We can go to our template. right? And we can say, hey, here are all of the available templates we have. If we wanted to add something, here, let's save it before. We'll save as, here, we're gonna call this Thomas's. I don't know if you add the, I'm a GIS nerd, not an English nerd. But we'll say Thomas's World map. Now we're creating that copy of that map, and this is going to allow us to really customize. Oh, that's why our scale ranges was locked, Joe, is because we were on the default map, right? So we go back to our trees, we go back to Idaho State. We get there, we see our trees, they pop in. We've hovered over them. We know where our trees are. So we go to natural, we go to our tree. There we go. We're back where we were. And now, yeah, now we can change these things if we wanted to. That's still not, that's interesting to me. So if we wanted to add our own layer, we go to our edit icons. If we have a PNG that we think better represents, it's on theme, it's on product with whatever our style is, right? National Park Service that I work for, very specific theme and style. If you have that, and you have the PNG, you can load that up. You can use that as your icon for these trees, right? So continue on. There's our zoom levels. What size do we want that tree? Do we want that tree to get bigger as we zoom in? Do we want it to get smaller? With all of these, you have the option to set by zoom level. So we have a single value for this tree, right? It's that same icon. If we wanted to have different types of icons as we zoomed in and out, we can set that by setting value by zoom value. The size is already set to that instead of using a single value, right? Opacity, whether or not at zoom levels we want those to stand out more, right? Or do they need to be more transparent? Symbol position is pretty straightforward. Where do we want the anchor? Let's zoom in because this will probably be pretty subtle. If we anchor this, it's just about where the anchor points. You'll see it jump. I'm going to go diagonal, but center's probably where we want to stay. If for whatever reason you needed to offset, you have that ability. So you can set off by pixel, by X and Y pixel. Probably, we do that sometimes in GIS to protect maybe private information, locational information, health information about a particular person, or maybe we're defense or intelligence related and we need to mask, right, the exact location. We can do that by just saying, hey, let's offset these symbols. We can specify whether we want to allow overlap with other icons, and if other icons can be visible. We can also obviously rotate those symbols. Any specific questions here? It's very, I mean, just to show it, we can change size. Let's go crazy. Once we get past zoom 18, right? Maybe that makes more sense for the maps that we're going to be creating. And then once we get past a certain size, we'll see, right? So that's all on that zoom level 18, and then it kicks off and goes to our smaller scale symbology. Anything there, y'all? All right. Some simple things that we can do if we look at base maps is there's effects on the base maps. Is everybody here using the web viewer, the new web viewer, or new map viewer? Or are some people still on the old map viewer classic?
We kind of toggle back and forth here at the GIS Center.
Okay, it's really this functionality's come in. I'm glad you said that. Let's just go to arcgis.com real fast. I'll just show this just for an access point. You can use that link. You can go directly to that link, right? But if you're in Classic, mostly still in Classic, Heather says too. Okay, dope. Then I want to show this really quickly. We can go to our map, and if we open in Map Viewer Classic, the way we can get to manipulating these even faster is if you're in this map and you want to look at your content, you go to Topographic. Within the map interface, when you go to your base maps, if you click on this right here, it's going to say Save Style As. You say, this is awesome. That's not a great tag, probably too long. Demo purposes. You can go, we're doing that save style as, but from directly in the map, and within the map viewer, it's going to open up the editor. So just a different way, a direct way to access it if you don't want to hit that link to go straight into it. This capability is not in the new map viewer. It's coming in March. I did some digging just in case everyone was in the new map viewer, but the ability to get straight into editing these vector tiles from within map viewer is coming in the March release. I'm going to ask that question. Very good. All right, let's continue a little bit. Some more cool stuff. So we've gone through all this work. We've created these awesome base maps. Maybe we've done one, maybe we've done a ton. Regardless, we want to share that with our buddies, right? I want to show off all this cool work I've done. I want to share the work and say, you know, I'm not going to tell them it was that easy to use the style editor and I just kind of click, boom, 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 click some things. And now we have the kind of map on template or on theme for what we want. But I'm going to share it out with them. So let's talk a little bit about custom map galleries. So everybody here who has used any Esri product has seen the base map gallery, right? We click, whether you're in Pro, field maps, even if you're in Collector, Explorer, the older apps, web app builder, map viewer, anywhere you've been, you've seen the base map gallery. We click the drop down, we get all the options for the available base maps. Up until this point, the majority of us have only ever seen the Esri default ones. Maybe we've thrown in some Bing maps that included or whatever, but we only get those options. The custom base map gallery is going to work the same way. We're going to add these vector tiles in, and every person in our organization, once I show you how to do it, that ever access that base map gallery, click down, they're going to get our new custom base maps that we've created. For organizational settings for pre-June, so 2019, June 2019 is when the default for all new ArcGIS online organizations or portal organizations, the default became the vector style base maps, right? Except for those two imagery ones, really. But if you're a lot of us, we got some long timers in here, right? I know Mark's like 75 years old. And that's just in GIS. He didn't even start until he was 30. So for any of us that have had an organization for a long time, we might still have our raster base maps. So the first time you go and look at your organizational settings, you go to the map and you look, it's going to see Esri default. You're only going to see this if you still have the raster. Once you click this, realize there's really no going back. It kind of sounds like maybe that's what Keith saw. Someone somewhere that updated to the vector base maps and there was this huge change. Just realize that once you click, I'm going to use vector from here on out. That's what we recommend anyhow. That's what it's going to be. But again, those vector tiles are better because they adapt to the display device, right? It's high resolution, regardless of our users on map viewer. If they're in Pro, if they're anywhere, it's going to adjust to that screen, all right? So to create that custom base map gallery, it's very easy. It's not hard. There's a lot of documentation on it. I will share a ton of it for you. Here's a blog that'll walk you through exactly what I'm going to show you today. Let me make sure this is everyone. There we go. It's going to walk you through, but it's way more words than you even need. First, you create a group in your ArcGIS line organization. You fill out the basic metadata, the item details, right? Give it a name. Maybe you give it a nice thumbnail so people know what they're looking at. You throw a summary and some details, and you're done. The big piece, the piece I highlighted here, is you need to share it with everyone or the organization. The organization at the very least, if you want it to be a custom base map gallery that you can set or specify for the organization. Once you've created that group, you add, edit, create the base maps. You save them, right? Whether you've created your own, you've edited them using that style editor, you share those maps just like you share other content to that group. Next, you go to organization settings, you go to the same map tab, you go to base map gallery. This is the image here that you're seeing. You will see your new group. You specify that group as the group that you're interested in using as your base map gallery. Another key thing here is you can share the vector, but you can specify, if you stopped right here, then it's only going to be those maps that you have shared to that group. If you want to include all the other default Esri base maps, all you do is click this share base maps, boom, all the vector tile base maps are going to be in there too. So someone will, from the jump, people are going to have 20 or 30 options to choose from. If you want to limit that, don't share the Esri default base maps. All right, so let's do a quick demo of what that looks like. So we're at Derek's organization. This is my own personal sandbox for playing around. I want to create a new group. Maybe we're going to use Thomas's, right? We want to make sure Thomas's new topo map is included in our group. Danielle says, can you add individual Esri default base maps? If you wanted to do that, you cannot. When you say share, Daniel, it's going to give you everything. We're going to say, have it all. Easy workaround. Save as style, save it immediately. Don't change anything about it. You have a custom map, right? And then just share that to the group if that makes sense. So I'm going to go to our group. I'm going to create a new group. And we'll just say this is ISU's custom base maps. We'll spell correctly. We'll say this stuff is crazy cool. And tags, we'll say ISU, Esri, boom. All right, group membership. Remember, we have to share at least with our organization. So who can view, I'm not gonna say everyone, but our org, right? Everyone that's a part of my organization can see this, everyone can contribute. If you're interested in the sharing details, we have plenty of documentation. We can talk offline, you can ask them a question, answer group. All right, so that's all I have to do. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna have my group. I don't have any items. I'm going to add some items. Let's see, there's Thomas's, right? Here's Thomas's map. Maybe we'll throw some of Derek's other ones that we've created. We're gonna add those items. If they're sharing, right, we can share items differently than we can share groups. So if there's items that we share in that group that are, you know, private or we're going to have to update that those can be shared with the organization or with the public as well, right? That's normal kind of content and group sharing protocol. So all we've done, we've got this ISU custom maps. If I had a quick ISU image, I would throw it in the thumbnail. Now that we have that, we have our content shared. All I need to do is go to my organization, go to my settings, and go to my map, right? 3 clicks of the button, I've got to my base map gallery. Let's open up my map right now, and we'll see if I go to, we're in the viewer. Here, let's get out of the viewer. I'm in my normal base map. I click base map, I get the Esri default because that's what my group is set to right now, right? All I do, click the edit. If there's a group with web maps, it will show up here. And so what I can say is there's my ISU custom. I'm gonna click you. I'm not gonna share yet, right? It's been saved just to show what this looks like. We'll refresh this map. Go to base map. Update. Did I not give it enough time? Tile layer, so let's just open this one in a map to see Thomas's real fast. Ready? We'll open, we'll save immediately. Nice catch, Keith. All right, let's save. We'll call this again, Thomas custom map, tag ISU. I think that's all we need. Save. Let's make sure it's in that right group. So we go to our content now. Let's make sure that this is shared accordingly. And I'm the owner. This needs to be shared. Edit group sharing. We're adding it. We're saying okay. We're saying save. We're saying update. That's that update I told you. Sorry, that update was, hey, you've made this map shared with the organization, but the vector tile package that it relies on is not shared with the map. That's still set as private. Do you want to update that so this can be shared? Now that we've done that, we are hoping to see at least Thomas's in our base map. There it is, Keith, with the save. So now we can use that custom base map everywhere. If we go back to our organization, we go to our settings, we go to our map. We say share the Esri default base maps. We see Esri default base maps shared. Let's do a refresh here. And when we go to base maps now, We will see ours, right? Alphabetically, where you at, Thomas? There's Thomas's along with all of the other maps. So that's how you can create a custom map, a base map gallery pretty quickly. Additional tips as I run out of time. If you're sharing your vector tile packages, if that tile package is larger or is 2 gigabytes or smaller, you can add it directly as an item to ArcGIS Online or to ArcGIS Enterprise. If it's larger than 2 gigabytes, you've got to have the ArcGIS Pro go through the process of creating a tile vector package and then using the share package tool. Pop-ups, if you remember, requires ArcGIS Pro, but it's very cool because then you can get pop-ups in your map. You have to highlight specific fields, including the object ID, set a pop-up source, which is either going to be your vector tile package, or you can specify associated feature layers to be your pop-ups, which is pretty slick. Again, the highlights base maps. Once you change to Esri Vector for default, there's no easy way back. You're probably going to call Mark. You're going to call your account manager. You're going to call someone and say, how can we get this done? I'm sure we've got 1 or 2 nerds, if not 100, that can help you do it. There's no just easy way as an org admin to say, I want to go back to raster base maps. But you shouldn't want to. They're not as fast. They're not as high definition. They're not as clear, high resolution. Once you include those Esri base maps, again, to go back to Danielle's point, once you include them, there's no take backsies. You're not going to say, never mind. You can't say, oh, take those back out. You'd have to create a new group, include the ones you want, then you'd be off and going. So if you're interested in mapping in multi-scale, this is really leaning towards the ArcGIS Pro person, how you can configure your map so that it works well with multi-scale mapping. There's a link for you. If you want to, that's web, sorry. So you got web there, and here's Pro. I wanted to provide both of those for people. There's the links you need. Any questions? Before I do questions, I found this in preparation for doing this for y'all, and it's a one-stop shop. Like, this is beautiful. We have a collection of story maps that go over the basics, everything we talk about here, including something, if you're one of those super nerds, and if you want to go the JSON way, right? If you go JSON Editor, you edit that in JSON, you've got to publish it, do all this work to see your changes. And they just released, if I can get this to open, yeah, let's sign in with you. They just released a editor for when you're using your own, or when you want to use the script, but you can see those changes in real time. So if you're that person, in real time, you can edit your JSON and see the effects right away. With that, I will stop and ask if there's any questions.